welcome to our Senior Parent Coffee. My name is Elaine Schwartz. I'm Director of Guidance. I appreciate all of you braving the traffic out there. I know what that's like first thing in the morning. We all deal with it. So just to begin, I would like to introduce our interim principal, Dr. Mark Karagis, who'd like to say a few words.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Schwartz. I have a lot of empathy for all of you. I went through it 3 times. So I have 3 sons that went to college, and each situation was different. You would think they'd be all the same, but they're not, because they're 3 individuals and there's 3 different circumstances, and they're coming from a different academic profile. But the empathy that I have is I've been in your shoes. It's an exciting experience. You're being tremendously proactive, which is the way to go, not reactive, because that's when you run into problems. And you're ahead of the game. And today you're going to hear a presentation on policies and procedures that are good even if you've done it before. It just reacquaints you with some of the protocols that you need for college, which is perfect, because I can tell you each time I had to be reminded as to what to do, because you lose track of it. And there's so many people here, so it's quite obvious that this is an exciting time. It's a very, very important time, because what it does do, it helps your sons and daughters mold their future, and that's what this is all about. I wish you best of luck in your processes, in your applications. I think you'll enjoy it, and I'm sure everyone will be successful. Thank you for coming today, and good luck to all.
And now I would like to introduce you to your very favorite assistant principal, Karen Morgan. Absolutely, very favorite.
Good morning, everybody. I'm truly delighted to be here, and I really can't believe we're here at senior year. We did it. And for the last couple of years, I've been kind of contemplating this idea of retirement. A couple of years ago, I did notice the gray hairs, and I thought, okay, now it's time. But I have to say, your kids are so great. They're so phenomenal, they're so polite and lovely and warm that I'm really having a hard time making the decision. So I want to thank each and every one of you. You are phenomenal parents. You have done a great job. I am not worried, I think. In senior year, you always wait for that other shoe to fall. And, so I do ask that we work together as a team this year to make sure that our ladies and gents are making the right decisions. We want to see everybody graduate. We want to see everybody at the prom. We want to see them working hard, but we also want to see them enjoying themselves and remembering senior year. So I'm here for you. Call me anytime. You have any questions, you have any issues, your concerns, just pick the phone up and call me. Little problems are very easy to deal with. When they're big, they're tougher. So please give me a call. Let's communicate. I really enjoy it. I've enjoyed being your kid's assistant principal. They really, believe me, they're wonderful, wonderful, phenomenal kids. Thanks. Is that okay, Jim?
Good job, Karen.
All right.
So I want to thank Karen. She really knows your kids well and cares about them very much. It's great having her part of our team. She also works with Alice Addix, who was our grade level assistant, and she is wonderful with all your kids and knows them better than you can ever imagine. I want to introduce Lisa Volliff, who is in charge of the senior internship. That is such an amazing program. Your kids are going to absolutely love it. I wish I had that when I was growing up. And she works really, really hard to make things happen.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to introduce Denise Pearl and Michelle Howard, who are sitting in the front along with me. They are going to be replacing me next year. I'm hopefully graduating when you guys do, since I have a senior this year as well. But we are going to be working together this year with Meeting Your Kids. Dr. Kragas hopefully will be sending out an email tomorrow with 2 attachments, one for parents and seniors and one for interested sites. And I brought some of those today, so I'll put them on that cart after I finish talking. Just a few highlights. I'm going to start meeting with the kids on Wednesday, September 16th, which is next Wednesday, through December 4th. It's a 15-minute appointment. They can sign up 2 ways. There's a Genius link for September and October appointments and one for November and December. They cannot meet with me during a period. It's only during their lunch or during their free. And I'm usually at school from 10 to 1 each day, depending on the day. Just please remind your child to register, because once they register, they get the links and it takes them to the Genius link where they can sign up. Just a couple things. The list of participating sites will be ready in mid-December. That's when they go through the whole opportunities, reading about them. On January 21st, which is a Thursday, after midterms, before red and whites, the deadline is to choose up to 10 sites. They have to choose at least 4. They rank them and they write a little description on why they're choosing that one and the skills that they have for that one. And then I'll go through it and figure everything out. A lot of them do require an interview. Some require a resume. Some require both. They'll be able to read about that and figure out which they want to choose. Some kids are designing their own, which means they're not choosing it off the list. And I sent out an attachment last June. It's also posted on the Staples website, so you can look through that. And I'll also explain that with the kids when I start meeting them next week. And then the most important date is when we start, which sounds like a million years away, but it comes much sooner than we think. Monday, May 16th, it's the Monday after AP testing is over. The end date is not set until early April, but it'll probably be the 2nd or 3rd week of June. And my email is shsinternship@westport.k12.ct.us. So if you need to reach me, that's how you can find me. Okay, thank you very much.
All right. I want to thank, we had a wonderful student ambassador here this morning to give out all the materials that you have. I want to thank Jim Honeycutt for filming this, and this will be on YouTube, so if anybody wants to see it again or anyone has missed it, they can watch it. So I'm also now, for the last of the introductions, very, very proud to introduce our counseling team. So I'd like to start with Vicki Capozzi. Yeah, you can clap, it's all good. Tom Brown. Jen Curry. Christine Tallarico. Denise Honeycutt. Deb Slocum. Leslie Hammer. Bill Plunkett. By the way, he had a little baby at the beginning of August, his 2nd little boy, so we're excited about that. Ed Heidick. PJ Wanchenko. His daughter turns 2 on Friday. I love to embarrass as many people as I can, so I'm doing a good job, I think, today. And also, we have 2 essential people who are part of our team, one of whom is with us this morning, Susan Fugit. She is one of our College and Career Center coordinators. The other is Shauna Flaherty, who couldn't be with us this morning, but they are so amazing. They help your kids so much, so I'm sure the kids come home and tell you all about them because they're incredible. Just out of curiosity, how many of you are going through this process for the very first time? I'd love to see a show of hands. Okay, it's a good number. How many of you have been through this before? Okay, good, because I'm going to look on you to help us all in this. And how many of you are going to be empty nesters? This is it, your kids are going. Whoa. We need a separate meeting for that. I feel with a box of tissues, but I get it. So today our purpose is to give you the information you need to help make this process go more smoothly. You've been given a packet with a booklet that we have taken a lot of time to prepare, and it has all the step-by-step information you will need. Please take the time to look at it and read it thoroughly. We're also going to be giving it to your children, and some of them have it already, and please encourage them to read it as well. In this packet, you also have our PowerPoint presentation, so you can follow along, and there's an evaluation that's in there as well. We hope you will fill that out at the end. We read each one of those evaluations that you fill out for us, and we really take your suggestions to heart. So at this point, I just want to give you a quick little update. Of course, most of you hopefully were part of our family meetings that we had last year when your students were juniors. Then in May, we also saw your students in small groups, and we gave them a checklist of things they should be doing over the summer. How many of you saw your kids doing work on this over the summer? Just out of curiosity. Okay, all right, good. You should have already at this point now received a mailing from us with an unofficial transcript. And we hope, and if you didn't, please let us know that. But we hope that you really check that thoroughly, because this is the right time. If there's anything that's not correct, please have your children come see their counselor. We have not sent things out yet for you to colleges, so this is the time to correct anything that might not be right. Counselors also have been seeing your students in their senior English classes. We started that the beginning of this week. We will be finished doing that on Friday, and we are actually giving them all the same information that you are getting today. We also will soon be sending you a letter home with information on your students' credits. We send this to every single family, so don't be alarmed that you're getting something about your students' credits. Everyone is getting it. If there's anything that they still need, and most of them still need something, whether it be courses or credits or whatever, sometimes it's a capped requirement, you will know that, but please feel reassured that we have already gone through all your students' schedules, and we are sure that they're enrolled in all the courses that they need to graduate. We understand fully the stress and the pressure this process causes for your children and for you. Your children are feeling overwhelmed and stressed. I'm sure you are too. They're trying to keep up with their classes, all their activities, visits, family commitments, friends, and they're still trying to have a life, and believe it or not, they're trying to sleep at night. So just know that on top of that, they've got all the college applications they have to do. They have a fear about being rejected, and for the first time in their lives, they have no idea where they will be going to school next year. Because when you think about it, kids know, right? They know what elementary school they're going to, they know what middle school they're going to, they know what high school, but now for the first time, they have no clue where they're going. And that's not an easy thing. So we also know that every student in this process is in a different place. So some of your kids have their essays ready to go and all done, and some of your kids have no idea what they're doing. But that's okay. We're used to that, and everything really does work out in the end. So if you are at all concerned, please call us. Just be patient. Those of you that have been through this before, and that's why I asked for a show of hands before, you can verify the fact that it all really does work out, right? Those of you that have been through it before, does it work out? Yes, okay, I love that shaking of the heads, all right. So I just will tell you, I've seen it all come together for over 30 years, and it's gonna come together for your kids too. So for now, sit back and relax. Let us guide you through the process. We will remain at the end of this program to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Christine Tallarico, and let's just jump right in. Okay, let's start talking about the college list. Many of your sons and daughters may still have a list with lots of schools on it at this point in time. So I want to talk to you a little bit about just how many college applications is enough. With so many colleges and universities to choose from, it's important to narrow down the choices and make a list of those that are a good fit. Keep in mind, there is no one perfect college. There's no, to use Deb Slocum's words from years ago, there's no one holy grail school. In order to make sure that your kids have options later, applying to a diverse range of colleges and universities is advisable. Choose one or two colleges where you think there's a significant chance of your child being accepted. These colleges are known as likelies. Likely schools need to be schools your child would actually attend. And I just wanted to clarify, the old word of safety has now become the word likely, okay? Choose 2 to 4 colleges that you think there is a better than average chance of getting in. Those are the targets, okay? Those are the ones right in the middle. The last set of schools are the reach schools. These are colleges that may pose application challenges, but applying is sometimes worth a try. You can choose 1 to 2 schools for this group. Though there's no strict rule regarding the number of applications sent, it is still wise to ensure that your invested time, effort, and money are all worth it. Try to avoid sending out too much. Focus and concentrate on the colleges your child really is interested in. With good planning, 6 to 8 schools will suffice. Truly, seriously. Data taken from the class of 2015 supports our long-standing request for applying to only 6 to 8 schools. The average number of applications submitted by students in the class of 2015 was 7. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, Naviance Family Connection. Hopefully all of you are very familiar with this by now. If not, you will become pretty familiar with it in the next few weeks. And our biggest message to you here is update, update, update. Take off schools that are no longer of interest and add schools that are now on your child's radar. It is important that Naviance be kept updated because it will be used for the online submission of all school materials. The Common Application list of colleges and the Naviance list of colleges must match. And we're going to show you a video a little bit later in the presentation about actually how to do that. Additionally, students are sent automated emails about college representatives visiting Staples that are generated by their list of schools in Naviance. And Mrs. Fugit, when she comes up, is going to talk about those college rep visits. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Susan, and I run the College and Career Center with Shauna Flaherty. And we're excited because seniors spend a lot of time in the College and Career Center, so we get to know them. We have walk-in hours in the College and Career Center Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, where students can come in first or second lunch and meet with a counselor to get any questions they may have answered. We also will be having a Common Application workshop Friday, September 18th. It's going to be in the library so we can accommodate larger crowds. And again, every question about the Common App is answered. They go through it. Students can bring their devices and follow along. It's really informative. And finally, college visits. We have over 200 schools visit us each year, and they come from everywhere. They're very small, informal meetings, and we highly recommend it. All the visits are listed in Naviance. That's where you'll find them, and the student will find them. So we urge students to check Naviance daily because it's very fast and furious. They start next Thursday, and they end the beginning of November. And there's always movement, changes, additions, deletions. So Naviance is always real time. And we urge the seniors to really get on there and make it part of their daily practice. If any senior doesn't have their username and password, we urge the seniors to come in and see us to get it rather than call, because that way we can make sure that their passwords, usernames, everything matches, and it's a really good exercise for them. Any senior can come to any visit, providing they have a pass that is signed by the teacher of the class they will be missing. They must present that pass at the door, and the passes can be found on our website. They are responsible for any work they may be missing, and it's really done on a honor basis. It works out great, and like I said, they're really informative meetings. They show interest much of the time, and sometimes you get one-on-one time with the reps. I think that's it. Oh, students will receive an email if it's on their list. So once they make their list, if a school's coming, they'll receive an email from their counselor that the school's coming. So that's why, again, check Naviance all the time for the seniors, because if it's not on their list, they still might want to come, and they can find out Naviance. And scholarships are also on Naviance, and those are really good to start early. Thanks so much.
Hello, I'm Tom Brown. So throughout this process, one thing that we think parents especially can be of great use and great help to their students are as organizers and deadline managers. So amidst all the things that your children are doing at this school, as much as their intentions are to get everything in on time, that's not always something that happens. So one thing you can definitely help with is that. So admissions has a few different kinds of deadlines. You may have heard of a lot of these already, so I won't review all of them in detail, but a couple that are most important. Rolling admission is first come, first serve. So whenever the application comes in, it's reviewed, they make a decision, they let you know. Regular decision is regular, happens in January, February. One of the three that are the different confusing ones are the early action, restrictive early action, and early decision. So early action is the same thing as regular, except it's an earlier application. So you apply in November, December, you find out in January, February. Early decision means that if you are accepted or your child is accepted, because you're not going to college, if they're accepted, they have to go to that school. So they're bound by a binding agreement, they sign a contract that says, if you accept me, I will attend your university or college. Restrictive early action kind of falls in the middle where it says you can only apply to one school, only a few colleges do it. So if you see that, just read the fine print so you understand exactly what it is that everyone's doing. And then the next part of the organization is all the components of a college application. So there's lots of different pieces that have to come together for a college application to be complete. So part of that is our school materials, which is going to be the transcript, secondary school report, which talks about what our classes and what the school here is like. Our school profile does that as well. The recommendation that comes from their counselor, the recommendations that come from the teachers, the video report, and the final transcript report that we send out to all the colleges. Everything that's part of the school materials comes from this transcript request that we're going to talk about in a little bit. So they only have to give us one form, and all that stuff gets sent out. So that part's fairly simple. The test scores need to be sent directly by you all, by you and your children, either from the ACT or from SAT College Board. We don't do any of the sending of test scores. We can't send test scores. Only you can send those. Then the application, obviously, your students are going to fill those out and send those in. And if there is an interview, if there's any opportunity to interview, as Ms. Morgan pointed out earlier, your children are all wonderful, eloquent speakers. If they can interview, it's going to help them in any way possible. So alumni interviews, interviews at schools, whatever they can do to get their face out there. And then as we're doing this process, we tell the students this too, to use their full legal name. The example I give them is that my name is Tom Brown. There's about 1 million of me in this country. I've met another person with my middle name also. So it's important that you use your full legal name so that when they're differentiating files, if there's a Tom Brown and a Thomas Brown and a Tommy Brown, those are going to 3 different files. So you need to use the same name for every single thing that you do, the SATs, ACTs, applications, and everything else. And then that's also what Ms. Schwartz pointed out earlier, on your transcripts now, make sure that name that your students have on there is the actual name that they're using in their applications, and that it's spelled correctly, and the birthday is correct, all that kind of stuff. Okay, thank you.
Good morning. I'm PJ Washenko. I'm going to talk to you about the Naviance update. As mentioned before, it is very important that Naviance stays up to date and current for notifications from the College and Career Center for when the colleges are coming to visit the schools, to speak to your students. Also to make sure that we have the ability to send the information that we need to send to the colleges. So our information goes through Naviance, recommendations, transcripts, teacher recommendations. If the Naviance list is incomplete or missing colleges, it slows down the process, it delays materials going out. So before your students go in to make their initial request, it's important to make sure they look at that Naviance list, and everything that's on there should be on there. Something that's going to be very important, we're actually going to show you a little video on this, is the matching of the Naviance and the Common App accounts and the FERPA authorization to release records. The details are on page 6 of your booklet, but we felt like to actually see it happen, it might make it a little bit easier. We've been showing this in the classroom for the students. Some find it helpful, some zone out, but at the same time, it is something that you get a lot of information. You can actually see what we're talking about, and I'll explain, certain parts within the video as well.
This video will demonstrate the 5-step process of registering for Common App, completing the initial steps of the Common App, and completing the Common App account matching process in Family Connection. Step 1. Open a web browser and go to commonapp.org. Step 2. If you already registered for Common App, enter an email address and password and click Sign In. If you have not yet registered for Common App, click Go in the Create an Account box. To register, enter an email address, choose a password, and then provide the required information. Step 3. Once you are logged into your Common App account, you must complete the following tasks before you can match your accounts in Family Connection. Task 1. Complete the questions in the Education section of the Common App tab. Make sure to choose your current school in the School Lookup section and complete all questions. The Education tab is complete when a green check mark appears. Task 2. Add at least one college to your My Colleges list. Task 3. Sign the FERPA release authorization in the Assign Recommender section of the My Colleges tab.
Oh, this part is very important just because this allows us to exchange information with the college your students are applying to, so they need to check yes to give us permission to do that. There's also a part on here that says, do the student waive their rights to view their recommendations, essentially. That makes it more credible when the colleges read it. If they see they did not waive their rights, the colleges view that as, well, the student was working with the counselor on the letter, maybe hand in hand, completing it, or they were kind of hanging over the teacher's shoulder about like, oh, I don't want you to put that, I want you to put this, or that doesn't sound good, change that up. It makes it much more credible, much more reflective of the student as well. We agreed to write the letters. Your teachers, they're not required to write letters, but they do agree to do them, and they do them out of the goodness of their hearts. So they're going to write good, solid letters for your students, so there's nothing to worry about with this. But once you check waive or do not waive, we want them to do waive. If students got a jump start already and maybe click do not waive, they can correct it as long as no information is at the college, meaning there's no test scores, there's no recommendations, there's no applications submitted already. The minute they have something on file for that student, it's locked in, it's done. But to change it, there's a request to do via email, I believe. They actually verify there's nothing on file, there's nothing there. They grant access for the student to check, to change their what they checked off to I do waive. So it's important to make sure that they check off the right box for that.
Step 4. Now that we have completed the initial steps on commonapp.org, let's move over to Family Connection and complete the final steps to match your accounts and to begin managing your Colleges I'm Applying To list. You can find the Common App account matching screen on the same page as your Colleges I'm Applying To list. To match your Family Connection and Common App accounts, enter the email address you use for your Common App account into the account matching screen and click Match. Step 5. Once your accounts are matched successfully, review your Colleges I'm Applying To list in Family Connection. Answer the question, Applying via Common App. If there are any non-Common App colleges that you are applying to, add them to your list at this time. You may now proceed to request transcripts and teacher recommendations per your school's instructions.
Per your school's instructions.
So
I
per
like
our,
that.
yes, which was a perfect slide for us. So, and on the next page, you'll actually see what Naviance is currently looking like. Right now, your students have access to colleges that I'm thinking about. In order for them to transfer their list of schools over to the active applications or colleges that I'm applying to, they have to check off the boxes here and then click the tab in the middle that says Move to Application List. Currently, that's not there, and we did that on purpose because we want them to get this information. We want them to hear about the FERPA. We want to hear about the waive the rights before they move things over, before everything gets sent out to the colleges. So they're aware of this. You guys are aware of this. We're going to say this tomorrow as well. So it's okay it's not there. It's going to be there at the end of the week. So just be patient with that one for a few more days. And then when they're ready to actually send things through for transcript requests, which is on the next slide, we'll tell you everything needs to come in. So it's important to, again, list this up to date. Your students are looking at the colleges they're applying to. And you can, again, see the details for what's required on page 6 and 7 in the booklet. But for this process, it's very important that everything is done properly, the right way. The timing of it is correct as well. We ask for all students for initial requests to bring in their information 4 weeks prior to their first deadline. And we do this because it takes time to process the materials. It takes time for us to write the letters of recommendation. And we're doing this for our caseloads of probably about 50 seniors that we have. And the students that want to get in the earlier stages, it's managing a lot of letters at once. So we need that time to space things out, write the letters properly, make sure they're good, reflective letters of your students, then get them out with enough time for the colleges to receive them by the deadline. if there's any additional requests that need to be made, so your students applied maybe early action schools, a rolling school in the fall months, but then they say, you know what, I'm going to apply to some regular decision schools later on, but probably when right before I leave for break, right before I leave for the winter holiday. That doesn't have to wait until 4 months before the deadline. So we can leave it up to about a week before the deadline just to make sure that it's, we're checking off boxes at that point and clicking submit versus typing a letter from scratch again. So all the information that's saved, it's in the account, it's ready to go. It's just a matter of, click this box, check that off, and send it out, and it's good to go. Then for how they request them, they're actually going to come down to guidance starting on September 16th. That's the first day that your students can come down to request transcripts to be sent out to the colleges. And we ask that they come down between 10:30 and 12:30 in guidance because we have a transcript secretary. Her name is Mrs. Ketley. Your students will know her very well. Some of you may know her already. But she collects all the requests. She puts everything through. She gives your students a receipt. She verifies all the paperwork. But then all the hours before and after that, she's processing everything. And there's a lot of materials, a lot of technical things as well that need to be updated and checked off. And she's putting the packets together for us. So it is a very time-consuming process, and for them to come in on off hours, it's going to throw her off of what she needs to do, which is actually going to benefit your students. So if they can come in between 10:30 and 12:30, that's what we need. If they were a day late, say they come in 29 days before their first deadline, that's okay. It's not going to be the end of the world. We're not going to, read the riot act or anything like that, but it's important to make sure that, they give her the time to do what she needs to do so we can have the time to do the things we need to do, and, everything stays nice and organized and on point. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bill Plunkett. So as counselors, we write recommendation letters for each student who's applying to college. These letters are individualized and comprehensive, talking about the student academically over 4 years, as well as who they are as a person, any family, health, or other relevant issues that colleges may want to be aware of, extracurricular activities, any life experiences that help to put the student's application into context. So we get to know all of our students through individual and group meetings over the years, and we also incorporate into our letters feedback that we receive from teachers. We heavily utilize the student activity sheet and the parent guardian brag sheet, so we really appreciate you guys providing thoughtful responses on those. Especially helpful are specific examples and anecdotes that you can share, as opposed to just general statements and lists of qualities and characteristics. Believe me, taking time with these documents goes a long way and really means a much stronger recommendation letter coming from us. Both the activity sheet and the brag sheet are to be downloaded from the guidance website. Please don't just rip the pages out of the books, go into the website, download those forms, you can fill them out, and then hard copies will be turned in to Mrs. Ketley as part of the transcript request. Mrs. Ketley, the registrar, collects all the paperwork, then passes along to us the information that we need to write the recommendation letters. Once they're done, our letters are sent along with the transcript, secondary school report, and school profile to each of the colleges. So whereas the counselor rec is intended to be more general, the teacher rec is more specific and talks about a student's performance in a single class that they've had them in. If your child hasn't done so already, now would be a good time to reach out to 1 or 2 academic teachers and ask if they'd be willing to write a letter on their behalf. Students who asked teachers last year, and if those teachers agreed to write letters, the students should now be checking back in to make sure that the teacher can still write the letter and has whatever information that they need. If the teacher has their own form, and some of them do, the students should complete that. Otherwise, both sides of the teacher recommendation request form that's on the guidance website, again, filled out with good, thoughtful responses at least 4 weeks before the first deadline that the student has. For now, students should only list on the form the colleges that they're applying to early or rolling, so anything with an October, November, or December deadline. Later on, they can go back to the teacher to request letters to be sent for any regular decision colleges with deadlines from January on. So they just, at that point, would need to provide a new first page of the request form. It works out to be a lot simpler and easier to manage for the students and for the teachers if it's broken up into these 2 waves, so October, November, December, and then January on. And just like the transcript request, the 4 weeks is only needed for the first request. Additional colleges, a week or so is fine. Teachers all have their own account in Naviance and will submit the recommendations that way as long as the college allows it. It's the student's responsibility to check in Naviance whether any of their colleges require materials to be sent through the mail, and you'll be able to see that on the list if there's a little stamp next to the college's name. And if so, to provide the teacher with a stamped envelope along with the teacher recommendation request form. Most of the colleges will accept it online though. As with the transcript request, students must update their list on Naviance and match their Naviance and Common App accounts before providing the teacher with the recommendation request form. Finally, it's really important for students to communicate with the teachers throughout the process, and certainly afterwards to follow up with a nice thank you note to the teachers who write them recommendations, especially since it's something they do on their own time, and also that students let teachers know about their about their acceptances and plans. So some students will choose to request what are called supplemental recommendations. This could be from a coach, a supervisor, somebody outside of school, a professor who's overseeing research, for example. It's definitely not a requirement. It could, but also could not prove to be beneficial to a student's application. It's important for the student, if they do have someone in mind, to check with each of the colleges on their list before submitting, if each college does in fact want that information. In order to be effective, the real key is that the person is providing new and different information from what's included in the counselor and teacher letters, not turning off colleges by just repeating qualities and characteristics and experiences that have already come across. As an alternative, students can provide a letter from these outside folks to their counselor, and we can include their perspective in our letter. Often this streamlines the process for colleges and helps to add some detail to our letters too. If a student does choose to have someone submit a supplemental recommendation, here's how. So for Common App colleges, they would invite him or her as a recommender through Common App in the section for each college. So over the left-hand side, you're going to see the name of each of the colleges listed out. You go into that particular college, and for each college, under recommenders and FERPA would invite that recommender to complete a recommendation. For any non-Common App colleges, have the recommender mail a hard copy or email the admission office directly. So we included this graphic just as a way to illustrate how the timeline kind of ideally or typically plays out. So say it's a November 1st deadline, which is common for early action and early decision. There are a few before that, but that's when most of the schools would get going. Make sure to submit the initial transcript requests and teacher recommendation requests 4 weeks prior. So for November 1st, request made by October 1st. If the student decides to add another couple of schools a few weeks later, that's fine, since we've already gotten the wheels in motion with the initial request. And you're going to find with this process and kind of each aspect that it's generally easy to add schools on once you've done each part the first time. Just don't come in October 24th with your first request.
Yeah.
Mr. Brown won't be very happy. So the student completes their application, deadline passes. 2 weeks after the deadline, the student should check that the college has received each of his or her application materials. A lot of colleges have portals where you check your application status online, and if not, the student can call or email the admission office directly. Don't call the day after the deadline though, and try as hard as you can not to panic if you see that something hasn't arrived. Realize that colleges are receiving tons of materials, and it takes often weeks for them to process everything and get it into the right file for the student. And then update the student's record and what you see online. Usually the scores or recommendation or transcript or whatever has been sent, and it's just a matter of the college processing it on their end. And as long as the student's application was submitted by the deadline, generally works out just fine.
Good morning, I'm Denise Honeycutt. So, schedule changes. Basically, they're not allowed. Once a transcript is sent to a college, we cannot change it. Senior courses are on the transcript, and decisions will be made based on those courses. So, I have an example for you that I'm going to read from the University of North Carolina, and this is a great example because it really is true for all schools. The strength of your curriculum will be an important factor in our decision about your candidacy. If your schedule changes for any reason between the time you file your application and the time you receive your decision, you must notify us in writing immediately. If you do not, we reserve the right to reevaluate your application at a later date and to change any decision we may have made. If your schedule changes after you've been offered admission to Carolina, we reserve the right to reevaluate your application and, if necessary, to revoke your admission. Admitted students who are contemplating a change in their schedule must notify us in writing before the change, indicating their proposed new schedule and their reasons for the change. So please know this. You know, oftentimes kids get into college in December or January, and then they come in, and guess what? They want to drop a class or two, and they're not allowed. So we encourage our students to think about their schedules now, and if they're going to make any changes, they need to make them soon. Next slide, please. Okay, the importance of senior year grades. Senior year grades are important. Contrary to popular belief, some students think they're not, but they are. Oftentimes, colleges will require or ask for first quarter grades. We automatically will send mid-year grades, and we always send the final transcript to the school. When your son or daughter is admitted to college, they are admitted contingent upon successful completion of high school. What does that mean? Well, if your son or daughter is a B student and they're accepted to school, and then they end up as a C or a D student, that is not good. Their admission actually could be revoked. And for some strange reason, kids don't always believe that. So we actually have a file, I'm sorry to say, of letters that we as counselors have been copied on that have been sent to our students. I'm going to just quote a few of these. This is from Bates College. We are particularly concerned about your final grade of C in AP Economics and C+ in AP US History. Please respond in writing with an explanation for the low grades on the final transcript. I don't know how that turned out. That wasn't my student, but this was my student. This was from NYU. While your marks did not fall far enough to cause us to rescind your offer of admission, the Committee on Admissions has placed you on probation, which requires that you maintain a grade point average of at least 2.5 with no grades below a 2.0 during your first year. Failure to meet these conditions may result in your dismissal from the university. So you get the picture here?
We get them every year.
One more, I like this one. This is from University of Michigan. This serious matter has been brought before the Grade Review Committee for a decision regarding the possibility of revoking your admission. It is incumbent on your part to write an explanation of the events that caused the decline in your performance. Please provide any supporting documents from a physician, counselor, principal, teacher, or any person who can support your letter of explanation. So, encourage your kids not to slump and to continue doing as well as they've been doing. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm Leslie Hammer. So SAT and ACT. Like everything else in the college application process, students undertake their standardized testing, for the most part, to some degree, at their own pace. Some of our students were finished with all of this by the spring. Many others are still planning to retake tests this fall. It's not too late to register if that's the case for your student. There are still test dates for both the ACT and the SAT coming up. It's important to note, as Tom Brown mentioned earlier, that we do not send standardized test scores, so you or your child will need to log on to their College Board account or their ACT.org account and order those scores to be sent directly to the schools that they are applying to. Let's see. It's important to follow the score reporting requirements for each college. They vary from school to school. Some are happy to have you send test results from particular dates. Others want to see everything. They do try to look at students in the most positive light, so they will often super score or just take the best from the various sections on different days. For many students, standardized testing does not really reflect their ability in college, their ability to do successful college level work. And if your student is one of those, and you should understand that many colleges and universities agree that these tests are not the best indicator. Often, really, the school transcript is the best way of determining a student's future success. So, on this list on fairtest.org, over 800 amazing schools who are happy to consider students without seeing their standardized test scores. If that is of interest to your student, please have a look. Next slide. So SAT subject tests. These tests are only required by truly the most selective schools. The exams themselves are usually taken at the end of the final course in a given subject area, and only if the student has been doing very well. If you believe that your child should be taking these tests, please be in touch with their counselor to discuss whether or not it's appropriate or necessary for them to do. With the AP tests, students may self-report their advanced placement scores on the Common Application if they feel that they would like to. It's completely optional. Depending on the schools that they're applying to, it may be worthwhile to report scores of 3 or above. Official AP scores are only sent really to the school that the students will ultimately attend, and they may be used for credit, for class placement, or advancement, depending on that college's specific policy.
Good morning, I'm Jen Curry, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the components of the application. And the first one is the actual application. Your students actually do have to fill one out and submit it. And listed on the screen are the 3 different types of applications that there are. Please know that a school may choose to accept one or more of these applications. If they accept more than one, they cannot and do not prefer one over the other. So whatever your student chooses to complete and submit will work for them. The application itself typically consists of demographic information, school information, activities, and an essay, and of course the application fee. The most popular one is the Common Application. It has about 611 schools that accept that, and it is designed to be an application your student completes once and then submits to any school that accepts it. For those of you with children who've been through the process before, you know that the Common App updates every single summer, and quite honestly, it's becoming much more customizable, therefore not quite as common as it maybe used to be. And for example, this year, for the first time ever, there are schools on the Common Application that are not going to require the Common App essay. So your student will see that as they go through the Common Application. And as noted on the slide, some schools have additional writing requirements, and those can be located in one of 2 locations on the Common Application. So if you're confused, and your students come home this week confused, please encourage them, as Susan mentioned, to come to the Common App workshop on Friday the 18th during lunches. It will definitely clarify most, if not all, of the questions that they have. The second one listed is the Universal Application. This is very similar in nature to the Common App. It was created as a competitor. It just hasn't really took off as much as I think they hoped. It has about 45 schools that accept that. And then the last thing is a school-specific application, which means institutions have said that they're going to create and design and accept their own. And these are very typical of the larger state university systems. If you think about California, Texas, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Indiana, they're going to have their own institutional application. It's going to ask the same information as all the others, just in a different format and a different way. In terms of some of the things your student might need for the Common Application in the education section, we've produced the frequently asked questions about when graduation is, when did they start, their counselor's title. So they're going to need this information, and don't worry, we've given this to them as well. And as PJ mentioned, the education section is the one that has to be completed prior to the FERPA agreement and the Common App matching. So as your students are working through the application, they're going to be writing an essay. And I can speak for myself and all my colleagues, we really do love working with the students on their essay through the process. And we have a great perspective in the fact that we've known your students for 3+ years, and we work with the colleges from year to year on the process. So we are in this, we know what they're looking for, we know your student, so we can really help guide them through the essay process. The essay is an important piece of the application, but it is truly just one piece of it. It is not going to be a make or break piece. That being said, your students should put time into it, and it is a writing process. The admissions committees, honestly, they're not comprised of English professors or magazine editors kind of playing gotcha with their writing. They want to get to know your student. They want to bring the student off the page and get to know them as best as they can. And that's why it's really, really important that this is written by your student, that it is the voice of a high school student. Because if they're trying to get to know the student and it's not written by the student, then who are they actually getting to know? And then for some schools, they feel that there's more that they want than just the essay, and they may offer an interview. Some schools will require an interview, and that obviously is very simple. Your student has to do that. This could be an on-campus interview, or it could be off-campus, and those typically utilize alumni as interviewees for that. The colleges that require interviews are very organized with this. Their websites are going to have details about how to schedule it, how to complete it, and what steps need to be taken. For those colleges that recommend an interview, that's their polite way of requiring it. So we do encourage your students to do that. If they have questions or reservations, they should definitely talk to their counselor about the right way to approach that. And for all students who are going to be interviewing, we as counselors are happy to meet with them, to talk about them, provide tips for them, go over practice questions, give them feedback, so that they're as prepared as they can be for that interview. And as Bill mentioned with the teacher recommendation letters, very similar, a follow-up thank you note, not email, to the person that they interviewed with is the best way to approach that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ed Heidig. If your son or daughter is an Division I or Division II recruited athlete, it is of the utmost importance that they register at the NCAA Clearinghouse website. As part and parcel of that obligation on their end, they should also see our transcript secretary, Ms. Ketley, to request that his or her formal transcript is going to get to the eligibility center. Any questions that you may have specific to the recruiting process of your son or daughter, please see Mr. Lisovic in the athletic director's office. Otherwise, as usual, you will notice quite a comprehensive section on this in the Staples High School Guidance website. Conversely, if your son or daughter is a star in the area of visual and performing arts, by now you should know that the CD protocols, portfolio protocols, DVD protocols specific to each college and university is something that you should know by now. To that extent, there are two websites that would be of most importance to you. The National Portfolio Day website, as well as the college fairs for the performing and visual arts. Check those out if your son or daughter in particular is looking for a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. Finally, if your son or daughter has any kind of accommodation here at Staples High School, it's a family and individual decision to request such at the college or university of your choice upon acceptance as to whether or not you're going to request the same kinds of accommodations. Please note that eligibility requirements, documentation criteria, and whatnot changes from school to school. This is a matter that you as a family should discuss, and you should also feel free to speak to us in the guidance department should you have any questions. And by now, as senior parents, you should know, besides the Staples Handbook, the Staples High School website has all this information and is a good friend.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? Yeah, I feel the same way. Somebody out there just went, I feel the same way. However, please know that this does work out, and everything that we give you is in these books. Last year, this year, website. It's a matter of just organizing. So let's talk about how everything we spoke about today actually gets to the college or university. So in general, ladies and gentlemen, there's 4 components for some students who might be athletes or artists, musicians, actors, there might be a fifth component. But in general, there's 4 components as to how an application is completed or a file gets completed at a college or university. Hit me. The application itself, the essay, and the payment is sent by the student. I giggle at that because you imagine if they wrote all these checks. And that is sent by the student at home, often, not often, sometimes I actually do it with the student in my office. The transcript, the secondary school report, the school profile, counselor recommendation, that is sent by us counselors here at Staples. And the way that we know to do that is by your son or daughter's transcript request. All the information that Mr. Washenko went over earlier, that's in our book. Test scores by you or the student at home directly from College Board or ACT. And then lastly, the teacher recommendations. The teachers will send them from their computers, whether they're at home or up in their office, separately. These all can go separately, and then they ultimately will complete a file folder at the college. It does not matter, ladies and gentlemen, what hits the college or university first. So, for some people, you may want to go home and say, okay, we know we're applying to this one particular school, and they require standardized test scores, let's just get that off our plate. You can do that. Now, I want to forewarn you, go to the next slide, Tom, please, that the minute something arrives at the college or university, your son or daughter is going to start getting inundated with emails that say, your application's not complete. Please send this, please send that, please send this, please send that. It's really, really important to try not to get excited about that. You need to understand, or your son or daughter needs to understand, I get it, and like, let me delete that. I get it, I know my stuff is coming. It's once the application file is complete that you can please be patient and give it about 2 weeks, Mr. Plunkett mentioned this, to see if everything is processed and there. Okay, oftentimes the minute you apply, your son or daughter applies, or something is sent, the college or university will send you an email with, quote, what they call portal information. So it's basically a username and a password or a link to go in and check to watch the materials that came in. Now let me give you an example on this 2-week thing here. My office, fortunately sometimes and unfortunately sometimes, sits right across from Miss Ketley's office, the transcript secretary's office. It's a busy area for 2 months. Oftentimes, I will see and hear students say, Ms. Ketley, I got an email that said, my stuff's not there, can you send it again? And so we say, often, especially, have you given it a couple weeks? No. Have you checked your portal? Oh, no. Sometimes they'll say, well, yeah, and it says it's not there. I say, okay, now let's call. Have you called to double check? And honestly, your students are growing up in a way different time than we did. And when we say you actually have to dial some numbers, I've had kids like turn around and look at me and go, what? So we need to get them to understand that it's okay to pick up a telephone or pick up their phone and dial some numbers and call. I cannot tell you, probably 9 times out of 10, they sometimes will call right then and there. The information is at the college or university. It's been input in the computer. The portals just have not been updated yet. This is huge because this in the past has caused undue anxiety. So, 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks sometimes. Sometimes we've called for a student because we're on week 3 and they're saying we're still inputting. Because teenagers will oftentimes, for the November 1st deadline, hit send on what date? October 30th, October 31st. So financial aid night, you know, if you are a family that would like to even just learn more about the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, Financial Aid Night is a wealth of information. Even if you think you may not be a family with need, I'm sure you can gather some great information there. If you are a family that has experienced some need or wants to learn more about loans, federal loans, this is the place to come. Free, it's run by Julie Savino, the Director of Financial Aid at Sacred Heart University. Wealth and breadth of information. And lastly, let's talk about scholarships. So in general, the college application to the particular school in general is also a scholarship application. However, every school is different. You know, colleges and universities don't make this easy. Every school is different. Some schools will require an additional application for certain scholarships. It's important to, if you're a family that would like to research that, click on the financial aid link and check that out. Also, for scholarships and grants, money that does not need to be repaid back, there's local scholarships, regional scholarships, and national scholarships. So national scholarships, of course, the pool is much larger to win scholarships, but we have kids who have taken the time, once the college application process is over, well, some of them do it now as well, they dig into applying for scholarships. Last year I had a student and a family apply and came up with $16,000 of money that they did not have to pay back. Was it a job? Was it a little bit of a pain in the neck? Yes, no doubt. So nationally, the odds are less, but they're still there. Regionally, oftentimes, Fairfield County or the tri-state area will offer scholarships. Oftentimes you can find that information in local newspapers, on our website, the Naviance website with the scholarship link. And locally, Staples High School is wonderful with their local scholarships, and those will start to get rolled out as early as January. Those are such things as Staples Tuition Grants, Westport Women's Club, and the PAL has about 5 or 6 scholarships that they offer. Those scholarships, for the most part, will require a FAFSA. So even though you may not think you meet the need federally, Staples Tuition Grants will use a different formula to determine your need here in Westport for tuition grants. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to use an exercise that I learned from Mrs. Honeycutt's grandson. I want everyone to smell the flower, blow out the candle. Smell the flower, blow out the candle. This is probably the most important thing you can know as the parent of a senior. Breathing deeply before you respond to their moods is very important. So I'm not going to mince words. I never have been one to mince words. The reality is that at a competitive high school like Staples, seniors are coping with a brutal combination of academics, the application requirements we just inundated you with, and deadlines, their extracurricular commitments, they want to spend time with their friends, they can't get themselves off social media, and they're living with uncertainty. There's not a single member of this senior class who doesn't have a secret fear that they will not be accepted anywhere. So, as parents, how can you best help navigate their senior years? We've written this slide here to give you a start. My belief is that your primary responsibility is to be the voice of experienced reason, not always popular with teenagers, and to be a source of comfort and unconditional love. The brain research we've shared with you over the years notes that adolescents don't have the wealth of experience to understand that the college admissions process is just one of many, many transitions that are going to occur during their lives. And that's what the student brings to the college experience that makes it special, not the physical college itself. However, as parents, your corpus callosum is fully developed. You don't have the same excuse. So remind yourself every day that you're in it for the long haul with your child. This is just one transition and not the most important one. So when considering how to be the best possible senior parent, I ask you to think about the following. Number one, have you accepted your child for who he is? All of us harbor expectations and hopes as to whom our child will become. Add on top of that the fact that we're very unfairly often judged for what our children achieve or do not. And it still remains deeply important that, as Madeline Levine stated so beautifully, you keep an open heart and love the child you were given. Following on that, are you being realistic? Our best advice is to focus 80% of the college search and application process on finding colleges where your child is likely to be accepted and will be happy to attend, instead of the almost inevitable focus on the stretches. Express enthusiasm for his realistic choices. I can't tell you how many kids tell me they get into their first school and their parents go, oh, so what? And oh, it breaks my heart. Challenge the myth that there's one perfect school for your child or that only a stretch college is worth attending. Celebrate every single acceptance equally. Do you expect your child to take responsibility for his and her choices? Don't tell yourself that the stakes are too high for a senior to take responsibility for a poor test grade or bent bumper. Acknowledge the reality that adolescent brains are not yet fully developed, therefore helping them stay organized, so occasional poor planning and lapses in judgment are inevitable. Developmentally, it's the job of our children to test limits and to establish their identities separate from their children, from their parents. So remember that in the future, you won't be there to support them when the consequences kick in. Maybe most importantly, are you checking your own anxiety at the door? The more aware you are of your own anxiety, acknowledge it as a reality, the better you can support your child. So lean on your trusted friends for guidance, and you know who they are. Remind yourself daily of what truly matters and please avoid cocktail parties or sideline conversations about your child's potential choices. As soon as somebody from the postman to the grocery clerk hears that your child's a senior in high school, those questions start rolling in. Encourage your child to limit sharing of GPA, test scores, and college lists outside the family, and follow the same advice yourself. Start a new trend. Advice is available from everybody. All this unwanted advice does is to raise the anxiety level of absolutely everyone involved. So hunker down, practice your yoga stretches, and know that this too shall pass. And finally, are you making the most of this last year of high school? Be sure to check on our bucket list slide. In the midst of making sure that deadlines are met, as well as enduring the churlish and lackadaisical attitude of a second semester senior, are you taking time to communicate unconditional love? During this bumpy, exciting time, you actually are the shoreline. Every day of my children's senior year, my heart broke a little. It was the last homecoming, the last prom, the last dinner out, and finally, before I blinked my eyes, they were gone. My most important advice is to not miss a single opportunity to hug and reassure him, even if he pulls back, that you believe he's a wonderful human being and that you love him no matter what. Thank you.
That's great advice. So I know all of you have just heard a lot of information, a lot of it's overwhelming. I think you just have to think about it as one little step at a time, little chunks at a time, and it does work out. I've sat in your shoes, sat in your seats, gone through this process with my own son and daughter, and going through it with both my children, I found each time it was like two entirely different searches because they're both so different. My son ended up going to a small liberal arts college 45 minutes away. My daughter ended up going to a large university filled with sororities and fraternities, because that was her thing, about 4.5 hours away. I'm sure in this audience, you're probably thinking, oh, that's like my kid or that's like my kid. But the main point that I want to bring out is that for each of them, they found their right match and they found their right fit and they found what made them happy. And that's what you want, because when those phone calls come home, you don't want them to say they're not happy. You don't want them to say that they're in the right place and they're so glad, because there isn't any place other than this that would be right. And there are so many that really can work for each of your children. So our best advice is to take this journey with them, help guide them to what is truly best for them, and we're here to help you do that. We do have an evaluation form. We'd love to help you fill that out for us. There's a box over there, or give it to any one of us. Help yourself to some coffee and goodies. Thank you so much for coming, but most of all for your wonderful children, because we really do care about them. And believe it or not, when they graduate, we miss them like you can't even imagine. We think about them a lot. And we're going to remain here for a little while in case you have any questions. Please remember to call us if you need anything, and good luck.
Yeah.